The season's on the line for the Colorado Buffaloes as they travel into Arizona to get a rebound win after a loss to Kansas State. Let's talk about this awesome game and then give a prediction at the end. We're going to be talking about our college football 25 model as well, so be sure to stay tuned in for that. So for starters, Colorado comes off of a heartbreaking loss to Kansas State. They were down big early on in the game, 21-7. They storm back, make a comeback. Shedeur Sanders has a game-winning drive. They go up 28-24, but then the Buffaloes finally disappoint on the defensive side of the football at the end of a game, and they give up two massive plays to Kansas State, who score a touchdown on that second play to take the lead and win the game. Huge game for Avery Johnson. But going back to the Buffaloes, Shedeur Sanders has played so unbelievably well, game in and game out. A lot of people are giving him number one quarterback status in the draft next year. I think it's credit where credit's due, but I'm not so sure if he's locked up this number one quarterback status. Now, yes, his completion percentage is through the roof. He's taken a ton of sacks, which most of them are not his fault. He's just trying to make a play, and he doesn't have enough time to do it. The offensive line looks a little better this year from last year, but also the playmakers for Colorado this year, especially Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter, have been on freaking fire. And that's another thing that I want to talk about with this Colorado team. Travis Hunter left the Kansas State game last week with a shoulder injury. He had to go to the locker room. Dion says that he's probably going to play. I want to go ahead and say that I think it's a guarantee that he's going to play this game. The Heisman is on the line here. Everybody's been talking about how deserved he is of the Heisman. I wholeheartedly agree. I think he should be one of the front runners. Nobody in the history of college football, at least in the 21st century, is doing or has done what he is doing now. It's unprecedented. Especially at this level of play. Not only is he playing both sides of the football, but he's doing it at an extremely high level. So I think he's going to play this game versus Arizona. That's just my 2 cents. I don't have any inside information, unfortunately. But now let's go to this Arizona side of this game. The quarterback wide receiver duo of T-Mac and Noah Fafita is still electric. I think T-Mac is second in the country in receiving yards. He is the best receiver in college football, in my opinion, if not the second or third best. No disrespect to Luther Burden III, still my guy out there. But back to the Arizona team. Noah Fafita has not looked that great. He came off of last year, and it looked like the ceiling was through the roof, honestly. It looked like there was a roofless ceiling. The top was down and everything was going up from this point, but he loses his head coach, Jed Fish, in the offseason, and Arizona has had a pretty rough start to the season, especially a tough loss to BYU last week. Arizona, I think, only put up 19 points in that. Fafita did not have a good game. He only has a 59% completion rate on the season, which is pretty atrocious for someone who was considered to be a top 15, top 20 quarterback in college football. But now, let's talk about the game specifically. Both of these teams are pretty one-dimensional. For starters, Colorado ranks 130th in the entire country in rushing. Their defense, I think, is a lot more stout than people are giving them credit for. Yes, they let up 31 points to Kansas State, but that's a really good Kansas State team that kind of outclasses the Colorado defense. I'm not so sure outside of T-Mac if Arizona's offense can do the same. So let's talk about a couple of statistics here for Colorado. They are number 10 in the country in total turnovers. They know how to create opportunities for their offense without getting a stop. It's just creating a turnover, getting a pick, forcing a fumble, etc. They are number 3 in the country in red zone touchdowns allowed. That's astronomically great. Their red zone scoring defense is one of the best. I'm not so sure what makes them so good. I think Travis Hunter, with less and less space behind him, gets a lot more opportunities to take some risks and some gambles, trying to pick off some balls. We actually saw that earlier in the year versus South Dakota State and Colorado State. But Anyways, this Colorado team on third down as well. They're third in the country in third down percentage or conversion percentage allowed, which means the red zone combines with the turnovers, combines with the third down percentage. This team is not necessarily, a top 10 defense when it comes to first and second down, but situationally, when it comes to scoring the football, converting on third downs, and creating turnovers, this defense knows how to get the job done. It's all about getting to those opportunities and then making something out of them, which they have done so far this year. So that's Colorado. Arizona, this team is also one-dimensional. They're 85th in the country in rushing. They are 18th in opponent completion percentage allowed, which is not a good sign for having to defend Shedeur Sanders, who does not make mistakes with the football very often. He's had a few interceptions this year. A couple of them are just absolute freak plays. If you go back to that South Dakota State game, I think it was the first game of the season, Shedeur Sanders is throwing a pass into the end zone like a 5-yard slant. It hits off the back of a defender's leg, literally off of like his calf, and it goes flying up in the air, and it's an interception. So that counts against his record, but is that his fault going back and watching film? Not necessarily. Like I said, Noah Fafita has not been great through the air, and so that's a major problem for this Wildcats team. Not only are they extremely reliant on the pass game, but outside of T-Mac, it's not working out. I don't really see a number 2/number 3 receiver for this Arizona team that's going to take the top off or make a big play down the stretch. And that's also why, combining with that 59% completion percentage, Arizona is committing 2.2 turnovers per game, which is really, really bad. One of the worst in the country. I believe that's correct. But overall, I think that this is going to be a back and forth battle of one-dimensional offenses against defenses that can prepare for one-dimensional play. And that's why, in my opinion, the under 58.5 is the for sure pick to go with here. Now, I did simulate this game. Let's get into our model here. I simulated this game 50 times in College Football 25, and these are the results I got. Colorado won outright 32% of the time. Arizona won outright 68% of the time. The average score was 22 to 28-ish, or 29, I guess. The median score was 21-28. So Colorado only covered the spread 46% of the time, as opposed to Arizona's 54%. But the pick that we're going with here is Colorado, Arizona, the under 58.5, hit 64% of the time. I think that this is going to be an opportunity for both defenses to have a get-right game, especially after what happened with Colorado and Kansas State last week. Personally, that is something that I thought before we ran this simulation. I also think, with my gut, that Colorado is going to win this game, but that is not an official pick. We're just riding with Colorado, Arizona, under 58.5. That's what the model tells us. Last week, the model ended up going 6-2 on official picks and 9-3 overall. Really proud of all that work that was put into that. Just to have it perform on a high level like that is really cool to see. I hope that it does well again this week. So that's the first pick we've got. Under 58.5, Colorado, Arizona. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching. We got a ton more college football previews. We'll see you next time.